Alright, let's get this over with. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is written and directed by James Mangold, stars Matt Mickelson, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and of course, Harrison Ford as the famous archaeologist, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones returns for his final outing as he's on a mission to try and find a mysterious dial that can change the course of history. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I am a huge Indiana Jones fan. Like, I remember back in the day when my aunt was living with me and my family, and she took me to see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters. Like, I have such great memories with this series. I had all the Lego sets, I played the Lego video games, I've seen all the movies, I bought books at my school book fair when I was a kid that was just books that retold the movies but in book form. I've seen the original trilogy so many times. I adore Indiana Jones. I just love that series so much. And when I heard that a new one was coming out, I was very skeptical. I mean, it's by Disney, and they pretty much have botched Star Wars with all the sequel movies. Sure, some of the Star Wars TV shows have been okay, but man, Indiana Jones, that's my baby. And seeing how Disney was going to make another Indiana Jones movie, I was very scared. That is until I saw the director, James Mangold. Now, he made Logan, which in my opinion is one of the best comic book movies ever made. And when I heard that he was directing this one, I had my hopes up, to say the least. I was definitely very excited to see this movie after I heard that he was directing. And I will say I have been ignoring all of the critic reviews that came out before this film's release. I mean, I heard that critics were pandering it. I saw some scores that IGN and other news outlets gave it, which, one, if you listen to IGN for reviews, I mean, you need to look somewhere else. But I just saw how much crap this movie was getting from critics, and I just turned off my ears, closed my eyes, and was just like, nope, I'm not going to listen to any critics. I'm going to go in with, my own expectations. I don't want to see what others are saying. I want to form my own opinion on this movie because Indiana Jones is so special to me, and I wanted to give my own thoughts. And I have opinions, to say the least. I will say that the film starts off spectacular. The first hour of this movie is pure Indiana Jones joy. I mean, I felt like a kid in the theater again when I was watching, at least the first hour of this movie. I was like, man, this feels like classic Indiana Jones. Like, this feels on par with, the original trilogy. I just have this giant smile on my face, what are critics talking about? I mean, there's no way that this can be as bad as people are saying with how well this is going so far. And then the movie kept going. And it kept going. And it kept going. And with each passing scene, my enjoyment of the movie went like this. It was like, I'm enjoying it first hour. And then it kept on getting worse and worse. And my heart was just broken by the end of it. Let me start off with some positives before I get into my negatives, because there are some really good things to say about this movie. The first thing being, of course, Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones is just great to see on the screen. I mean, that is one of my childhood film heroes, Indiana Jones, and just seeing him on the big screen once again, even with Harrison Ford, who's 80 years old right now, I just saw Indiana Jones. I didn't see Harrison Ford trying to play Indiana Jones. I just saw Indiana Jones on the big screen, and Harrison Ford does a phenomenal job returning as this character. And you can tell that Harrison Ford has so much love and passion for this franchise and this character. I mean, just look at interviews between when he talks about Star Wars and when he talks about Indiana Jones. I mean, it's a night and day difference. He clearly loves this series and this franchise. And it made my heart so warm just to see this character on the big screen again, played by someone who truly loves this character as much as the fans like me do. And there is zero nostalgia bait in this movie. I mean, zero. You don't have one scene where it's clearly a wink to the audience, hey, remember this? It's been 30 years since the other movies. Remember this scene? Hey, remember this? There's zero of that in this movie, which is a complete shock. I mean, you would think that they would have a lot of nostalgia bait, to get, old people in the audience, oh, I remember that scene from the other Indiana Jones movies. But no, there are none. And it's so refreshing to see a film that has a sequel, 30 years later or 20 years later, that has no nostalgia bait. That's so refreshing to see, especially by Disney. The first 20 minutes are so much fun to watch. You have young Indiana Jones, which, yes, they do DH Harrison Ford, and the effects look really, really good and really, really bad at the same time. It's definitely that uncanny valley where it's like, wow, that looks like young Harrison Ford. Like, wow, that's young Indiana Jones on the big screen. But you can't help but keep on thinking, oh, that's just Harrison Ford with some de-aging makeup on him. Like, that's not actually young Indiana Jones. And what they don't show in the trailer, yeah, they do show young Indiana Jones in the trailer. What they don't show you is that they don't change Indy's voice. So you have young Indiana Jones with old Harrison Ford's voice. So yeah, it looks like Indiana Jones after he smoked like 30 cigarettes before filming a scene. Like, can you not just change the voice a little bit? I mean, just a little bit. I mean, come on. And throughout the first 20 minutes, you have this really fun train scene where Indiana Jones is disguised as a Nazi, so he's trying to rummage through this train, making sure he's not trying to get caught, make sure he's trying to find this specific artifact. Oh, you figure out this artifact's not actually an artifact. It's very intense and really fun, and just reminds me of old Indiana Jones. Like, if you can't tell, I'm talking super fast because I just love getting over Indiana Jones. And just the first hour or so just made me feel so happy, and the first action sequence on this train just made me feel like it's classic Indiana Jones. But the movie keeps on going and it gets worse and worse. I also have to commend the set pieces for these action sequences because they are gorgeous. I mean, especially during this one action sequence where it's during this parade that's celebrating us getting back to Earth from the moon. And you have all this confetti everywhere, these flags of colors. It's just so beautiful to look at. And the action sequence that goes with it, this fun motorcycle chase with this horse chase as well. It's all very, very entertaining to watch. And just gorgeous to look at too. I mean, the set pieces, well done. I mean, every Indiana Jones movie has had great set pieces. And this movie is no different. I mean, the set pieces knock it out of the park and make it feel like it's a classic Indiana Jones movie. And you know how, like, every Indiana Jones movie has, like, that one memorable scene? Like, you know how in the first one, you got the fist fight between Indy and the big guy near the plane? In The Last Crusade, you got the Holy Grail scene where you're trying to figure out which Grail it is. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Don't really remember any classic moments from that movie, to be honest. But Temple of Doom, where, the guy rips the heart out. Every Indiana Jones movie has a classic scene. And in this one, this motorcycle scene with all this confetti everywhere, and the parade, and the set pieces, and the fun horse chase, this is easily the best scene in the movie, and it's definitely a classic Indiana Jones moment, in my opinion. And all this stuff I'm gushing over is pretty much in the first, I want to say, hour of the movie. But man, talk about an absolute U-turn this movie takes. Around the halfway point, it just gets so dull and repetitive and boring and uninteresting. And the last 30 minutes or so, I want to say, potentially just ruin the entire movie for me. The last 30 minutes is atrocious. The first complaint about the movie is the introductory of this character named Helena. Now, before I say, is played excellent by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She does a fantastic performance for this character. Unfortunately, the character is just not that interesting to begin with. And her character is pretty much just an exact opposite of Indiana Jones. I mean, yeah, she's trying to find all these artifacts, but she's trying to find it for the money, not for, like, the history that these artifacts hold. Which I can see what they were going with here, They're both two sides of the same coin, You have one person who loves the history, and one person who's just in it for the money. And they have this, like, dynamic between them. But unfortunately, the dynamic between Indiana Jones and Helena is just not that interesting to begin with. Throughout the entire movie, they just bicker and whine and complain to each other throughout the whole movie. And at the end, they have this scene where they also make up and, realize their differences. But it doesn't feel earned. It just happens out of nowhere in, like, the last 20 minutes of the movie. And it's like, oh, we're buddies now. We're friends. And it does not feel earned in the slightest. And this character just seems so just forced and uninteresting to begin with. I just wish they could have done something different with her character. Because the part I really don't like what they did with her character is why she's introduced into the movie to begin with. Now, apparently, she's Indiana Jones' goddaughter, because she's the daughter of Basil. Now, who is Basil, you may ask? Well, apparently he's just this random person that they decided to add into this movie for the Indiana Jones lore that apparently Indiana Jones was best friends with. And this character Basil dies later, so Indiana Jones is now the godfather of Helena? Like, what? We don't know who Basil is. We don't know who Basil is. Like, who's this Basil character? Why is he in the movie? Just to add in Helena into the plot? Like, why not just add Helena into the plot without adding in this weird, like, goddaughter scenario? It adds nothing to the story and just messes up with the Indiana Jones lore. Like, Basil was never mentioned in the entirety of the Indiana Jones series. And now we're just like, oh no, Basil was best friends with Indiana Jones. You know, he's so important to the lore of Indiana Jones and the story. No, just no. Don't add in characters in a brand new movie and like act like, oh no, this is someone that Indiana Jones was best friends with. This is his best pal ever. Just, no, I hate when films just add in random characters and act like, you know, our main lead has been best friends with them throughout the entirety of like all 3 movies or 4 movies. Like, I hate when series add in random characters for the sake of adding in random characters. And like I said, the unfortunate thing about the chemistry between Helena and Indy is that it's just not very interesting to begin with. I mean, all they do is just bicker and whine and complain through like 2 hours of the movie until the last 20 minutes where Helena like flips her character on a dime and decides, you know what, maybe I shouldn't just, you know, steal these artifacts for money. I mean, literally, it's 2 hours of Indiana Jones going, that belongs in a museum, and Helen going, no, I need the money. It belongs in a museum. No, I need the money. It's that for 2 hours, and it's so stale and boring. Like, I get, you know, doing that in like the first 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of the movie. But no, it's just that the entire story until like the last 20 minutes where Helena changes her character out of nowhere and is like, you know what? Maybe I should listen to Indiana Jones. Maybe he's right. Like, God, the writing for this character is just so all over the place. I mean, I can see what they were trying to go for, but man, they just dropped the ball with this character. They really did. Luckily, Phoebe does give a really good performance, but man, just man. Okay, now I know I said that, you know, the first hour had some pretty fun action sequences. They do, but almost every action sequence has a bit of an issue, and that is there is no weight to any of the action whatsoever. Harrison Ford's body gets blown around like a rag doll all over the place, and he should have died at least 5 times in this movie, but nope, he gets back up like, oh, I'm alright. Yeah, that hurt, but I'm alright, you know. Yeah, don't worry about me. And I'm like, this man is 80 years old. Indiana Jones is 80 years old. How is he getting in head-on collision car crashes and surviving? How the heck is he, you know, getting blown off a train and surviving? How the heck is he surviving any of this? But movie magic, I guess, I don't know, but there's no weight or feel to any of the action sequences whatsoever. I mean, he outruns a train by riding a horse. Like, what? Like, what? Now let's talk about the Archimedes dial itself, because, you know, Indiana Jones movies are famous for their artifact, you know? I mean, this series had Indiana Jones looking for the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, weird alien crystal skulls. I mean, really fun artifacts. And all we have is just a clock. That's all we got. We got a clock. Yay. I mean, there's no sense of urgency to find this dial because we kind of have no idea what the heck it does. I mean, they just say like one sentence about what it could do in passing, and then it's like, oh, we gotta get the dial. We gotta get it before Dr. Voller, played by Mads Mikkelsen. We gotta find the dial before he does. And there's no sense of, you know, oh man, we really have to find it. We really have to find it. No, it's just some dial that might predict history. until it actually reveals later in the movie, like 20 minutes till the end, like what it actually does. And when they reveal what the dial does, oh boy, I will get to that, trust me, I will get to what the dial does, because man, it's stupid. Now let's talk about Dr. Voller, played by Mads Mikkelsen, because man, I love Mads Mikkelsen. He's one of my favorite actors. Anytime he's in anything, it definitely elevates the enjoyment of the movie. But with Dr. Voller's character, they do nothing for Mads Mikkelsen in this movie. The script does nothing for his character. Mads Mikkelsen has nothing to do in this movie. I mean, sure, he's giving a pretty fun performance, but his character is so bland and boring and uninteresting. Just everything about this villain is just so boring. That's what it is. It's boring. I mean, this movie somehow made Mads Mikkelsen, one of the most intimidating actors to play a bad guy ever, boring. That should speak for itself what this movie is like. I mean, come on. And Dr. Voller's plan, oh boy, it is one of the dumbest plans I have ever seen for any villain, like, ever? Probably? Like, the villain plan is so ridiculous and so out of nowhere that you have to hear what it is to believe it. And trust me, I will let you know what it is. I'm going to have a spoiler section at the end of this review to let you know what happens in like the last 30 minutes or so of the movie, because there is a lot I want to talk about. Because that's when you learn about the dial, you learn about Dr. Voller's plan, you learn about this weird twist of what the whole story is, and just trust me, I'll get into spoilers, but there's a lot here. There's a lot. And this movie is way too long. This movie is almost 2.5 hours long, and it feels like it's 3 hours. It could have easily been a fun 2-hour adventure, and that's it. But no, they have to add in like 30 minutes of just random stuff throughout the movie, long pandering scenes, random scenes with different characters that add nothing to the plot. It could have easily been cut down to 2 hours and made the movie so much more enjoyable, but no. 2.5 hours, and it feels like 3 hours, and by like, the hour and a half mark, I was just ready to go home, but no, I still had an hour to go. But man, that last 20 minutes though, oh boy, let's talk about it. Alright, I need to get into spoilers now of what happens in like the last 20 minutes of this movie, so if you want to skip spoilers, skip to this time frame right here, because I have a lot to say, because, buckle up, because you're in for a ride. Okay, so I know this series has had some weird artifacts and weird magic, like the Holy Grail, or Indiana Jones being possessed by voodoo in the Temple of Doom, and freaking aliens in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But the Dial of Destiny, the Archimedes Dial, what this thing can do just jumps the shark for the entire series. So apparently, the dial opens up a portal that lets you go back in time. That's right, guys, this movie has time travel. Time travel is now in the lore of Indiana Jones. This movie has time travel. This dial opens up a portal and can send you to anywhere you want to go. Or so you think. Turns out the dial actually only opens up to a certain specific time during the Roman era, where Archimedes helped with the Roman war. For some reason, I genuinely don't remember why the dial was made like this. I saw the movie last night, and I have no recollection or memory of why the dial just sends him back to this specific time period for Archimedes. I don't know why. It doesn't really explain why. If it did a poor job explaining, because I have no idea what the Dial of Destiny does. In Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny. This movie is called Dial of Destiny, and I have no idea what the Dial of Destiny does. Now let's get to Dr. Voller's plan in the movie, because you ready for this? So Dr. Voller wants to use the dial to go back in time to kill Hitler. Okay. So Dr. Voller can become the next Hitler. Why? Dr. Voller says in the movie that he knows all of Hitler's mistakes, that Hitler made throughout history, and that Mads Mikkelsen can be a better Hitler to help the Nazis win the war. So you're telling me that Dr. Voller's plan for winning the war for the Nazis is to kill Hitler so Dr. Voller can be a better Hitler? What? Like, what? 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 This movie broke me. Like, saying that out loud broke me. I have no idea who thought that was a good idea. Just, huh? But wait, if you think that's crazy, it gets crazier. So at this point, I'm just completely checked out of the movie. Like, I just don't care. I want to go home. But here's what happens next. So the plane flies up into the portal. You know, they're hovering over the sea. They realize they're in Roman times. You know, the plane crashes, but Indiana Jones and Helena, they jump out just in time through a parachute and they're able to escape. They land their parachute, and Indiana Jones gets to meet Archimedes and has a conversation with Archimedes. This movie has Indiana Jones going back in time to talk to a historical figure. If that's not jumping the shark, then I don't know what is. This movie has time travel and Indiana Jones speaking to Archimedes. Okay. What happens next? Well, it turns out that Indiana Jones decides he wants to stay in the Roman time to witness history. That's right, he just wants to stay in history of the Roman times and witness what happens. He says, all my life I've studied this stuff, now I get to witness it. Which, to be fair, that's a unique idea. That's interesting. If they were going to go with this time travel story, that is a unique idea to do. But what happens? Helena punches Indiana Jones, knocks him out cold, brings him into a plane, and forces him to go back to his time. That's right, Indiana Jones, in his own movie, does not get the final say in his fate. In a movie that is all about making your own fate and doing what you want to do and trying to live your best life, the movie ends with Indiana Jones not getting his choice. Are you freaking kidding me? I generally don't get angry when I make movie reviews because I don't want to seem like over dramatic or anything. And I apologize if I do seem over dramatic talking about this, but like I said, Indiana Jones, that's one of my favorite series of all time. And I'm sorry if I feel like I'm getting like really angry talking about this, but if this is the final Indiana Jones movie, and Indiana Jones does not get his say in his fate and what he wants to do, and it's decided by this random character that we don't care about, yeah, no. Just no. I mean, does that make any sense to you guys? It didn't to me. Guys, this was the most disappointing movie I've seen this year. I was so hyped for it. I was so hyped to see James Mangold take the helm on making an Indiana Jones movie, and it just failed on every level. Except for the first hour. First hour was cool. But that's all I can say. That's why I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny 4 Crystal Skulls out of 10. Now, why 4 out of 10 and not like lower? Because like I said, there are some strong parts. The first hour is great. Harrison Ford is great. There's some great action in the movie. But the rest just goes out with a whimper. And I hope that this is the end of the series. They tease another movie at the end of this. They tease another Indiana Jones movie. They tease another one. And I pray to God that that movie does not happen. I hope that this is the final one and we can lay this series to rest. Guys, first time here and you like what you've seen? Be sure to subscribe for more content. I'm sorry this was an angry review. I generally don't really do angry reviews, but it is what it is. If you like what you've seen, be sure to subscribe for more content. And have you seen Dial of Destiny? What did you think about it? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have a fantastic night. Take care.